Good morning, everyone. Let's continue with chapter 13, boxes. So, as you may recall, we have mentioned about, in fact, for any element in the HTML, we can consider there's a box just surrounding it. So that means the element is inside of a box. So that's the reason we can do the layout. We can decide where we want to put the box, and also we can decide the size of the box. We can decide the background of the box. We also can add a border to the box. Okay. So here is the outline of this chapter. We'll talk about these three topics. So about boxes. So the first one is that we can decide the dimension of the boxes. That means the height and the width. Because the box we use rectangle. So this is the first one. And then the second one is we can decide the border. We can create a border for a box. And then we can also set the margin and the padding. So margin we mentioned before. That's the distance between boxes, between different elements. Padding is the distance between the border of the box and the text or the next elements. That means inside of the box. Okay, that's the distance. And the next one we can also decide. We also can decide whether we want to display the box or we can hide the box. So that's the three main topics that will be covered in this chapter. Let's start with the first one, controlling size of boxes. So here we talk about the two properties of a box, the width and the height. In fact, we can set the width and height based on this property as well, the same name, property name, width and height. For example, here we define the width and height for division, and also the height and width for a paragraph. Okay, so this means in fact we have three methods to define the height and width. So the first one is 300 pixels, 400 pixels. So this is just using the pixels, means the absolute number of absolute size based on the pixels. And then the second one is using percentage. So percentage unit is that depending on the containing box. For example, this paragraph is contained in the division. So this paragraph is in the division element. So that means we base on this one as the base, and then 75% of the base will be used for height, 75% of the base will be used for the width. Okay, so this is the relative size. So that means based on the something else, and then can automatically adjust. So that's also why currently we use more relative ones rather than absolute ones. So now we haven't covered the last one. So last one we use EM, okay, EMS, EM. Okay, this one is based on the width of the M letter. Right? So this letter is also depending on the browser, right? On the hardware. So that's why now we use more relative ones using percentage and EMS rather than just using the PX. Okay, the reason that this one is more flexible. Just consider, for example, you can run your program on PC, also can run it on a cell phone screen, on a cell phone. So the screen size is different for different devices. So we need to adjust accordingly. So using relative size is much more flexible. If you use absolute value, so this will make problem. Maybe they cannot show that number of pixels on a screen, for example, like this. So if you fixed the number of pixels, you may not be able to run your program, run your web pages on those screens. Okay, show on those screens. This is the reason. So currently we use more percentages and the EMS. First, then you can think about, okay, I use EMS to decide the base. Okay, how many times of the width of M letter, and then we decide how much percentage to show this one, how much percentage to show this one. Okay, this is much better. So we can adjust if the screen is a PC and then show it bigger. If the screen is a cell phone screen, then we can show it smaller. So we use relative size. So for example, for this one, the running result is like this. The division, in fact, the code is like this. In the code, the container we have a division, and then inside the division we have a paragraph. Okay, so for division we create like this one is 300 pixels by 400 pixels. So this is width, this is the height. So 300 and 4, so 400. So the width is 400 and the height is 300 pixel. And then we select 75%, 75% for the paragraph. And then because here we didn't set the border or the padding, so that means where you show the paragraph or the margin. So that means we'll start from the beginning. In default, we start beginning of the top leftmost pixels, and then start there. And then we use 75%. This is 25. This is 75. So use this one to. This is also 75. This is 25. To decide the box for the paragraph. For this paragraph. Okay. You can also find the colors are different. So for the division, we use this color. For the paragraph, we use this color, the background color. So this is for this division background color. This is for the paragraph background color. They're different. Okay. Okay. Let's look at the code as well. So this is the division paragraph inside, okay, and then we in default we define the font is Arial if it's available, otherwise use Fandala or any available sans serif. Okay, and then the color for this one is the default text color inside of the body, and then that's this color. Okay, show this one in gray because we didn't change this color later. We only change the background color. So the division is the whole. Okay, the whole. So this means the division. So that means the whole. This like a pink, like a pink one. The pink rectangle. This one will be used for the division. And then the width is 400, height is 300, 400, 300. And then we select 75% of each dimension to generate the box for the paragraph. And then its background color change to this gray color. Okay. Okay. This is the running result. For example, here if we change, we change something. For example, the division is 400, 300, and this one is 75. If we want to make it bigger, 95, you can find now it increased. It increases size. Okay, and then this pixels is also seems not good because it depends on the resolution, depends on the screen size. So we want to change to EM, for example, with 25 EM. And this one is 20 EM. Okay, we can decide to see what's the running result. Okay, this is difference. Okay. So it's bigger, huh? It's bigger. So you can just decide how many EM you need to have for this, and then it can show just on any screen, because EM is also relative size. It depending on the available font size, to show default font. 16 pixels, correct, for the default size. Okay, this is for this example. We can set the height and width for the surrounding box. Okay, this is first demo. Okay, here we continue to talk about the deciding the size of a box. That means in the previous slide we said that we can decide the width and height. Okay, we can use absolute or relative size. And then here we define the minimum and the maximum width. And next one we talk about the minimum height and the maximum height. So you may ask why we need to define the minimum width and the maximum width for a box. So you can just consider, if we don't set this value, you can zoom in, just like you can adjust. For example, the screen is very small, the window is, and then the window size to show the text is also small, to show that the box is small. So it will be not legible to read or not recognizable to read the content in the box. So you must set a minimum width to stop the browser to zoom in, okay, to scale down. And similarly, you, for example, if you have a very wide browser, you also don't want to have such case the the box is keep increasing, and then the text is reaching from the left to the right, make it very long and very not of space, empty spaces between the words. Because you may know the largest font size is 72, so maybe you cannot just zoom out too much as well. So this is the reason we want to set a min and a max width. Let's look at this example. For here we use TD. TD means table definition, means a cell. For this cell, for the domain description for this class, we defined this min width is this one, and the max width is this one. That means for description, maybe we later will find out. So in that cell, we first show image, and after image we provide some explanations. The image is about a panel, some brand type panel, and then after that we show the image, this text to describe that brand of panel. Okay, so this one we want to decide the text, the text size. Okay, must the minimum, the window size minimum width is 450 pixels, and the maximum width is 650 pixels. And then text align is align to the left. Okay, padding is 5 pixels, so that means between the border and the content, you allow 5 pixels. Margin means between elements, for example, the image and the text is no gap. Okay, no gap in between. So this will show the result. Okay, let's you can think about you can find later we can look at the code. So just look at here. You have a table. Okay, this is table head, and then you have three. Okay, have these 3 columns, and each column will show the image first, and then the text, and then this. Okay, and then this price. So for each cell we made, for example, this description, we may assign a class to it, okay, a class attribute to it. So this is the image, this is distribution, this is price, and then we have something special for these things. Okay, let's look at the code. Okay, so just look at the padding. Padding means you start 5 pixels. So this window, this cell, the box, so we don't start from the beginning of the border of the box. We after 5 pixels we start the text. That's padding. Margin means between elements, means for example this element and this element there's no gap. Okay, so that's why we set margin is 0 pixels. So that's why you can find it's run one after the other. Also here, cut. So all the all the cells are just one after the other. Okay. Okay. Let's look at the code. So the code. Let's look at content first. Zoom out, zoom in, and then you can find here we define a table. Okay, table, and this is the table row. So the first is table head. So we have a photo, description, and price. Okay, this is table head based on row by row. Okay, one. So this is first row will have this 3. So that's why you find here table photo, description, and price. Okay, and after that we have another table row. In this row we have 3 table cells, so we call table definition TD. So the first cell will show image. This is the image path, okay, src, and then the image size 200 and 150, and then alternative title is Fender Rods. That's the brand of the image. Though we are not able to show it because this is for screen reader, okay, for blind people to read the content of the image, because we cannot read the image to people. We can only say, okay, this is a Fender Rods image. Okay, and after that the next cell means from this okay, this is one row, table row, and then TD. So the second TD means the second cell. Second cell will assign a description class attribute to it. So all these things belongs to the description class. So that means we can assign style to these cells in a batch mode. We don't need to define it one by one, right? Because they're quite they just apply the same style on each column, okay? Each column. So we hope we can do like that. So each column. Okay, so after that is the price, okay? That's another cell. Continue. Okay, and then we show 3 brands of panels. So do you know this? Okay, next one we show the results. Okay, we do do them in a parallel way, so side by side, so you can see the result. Okay. So the most important thing here is that we define the maximum width and mean width for the description for this site, for this cell. Okay, for this one we also, let's look at it from beginning. For example, for the font, in default we use Arial, and the color, the text color, we use this one. In the foreground color we use this one. And then table head, we have button. We have button. Border button is 1 pixel. We add a button, just a border button. Okay. Later when we talk about tables, we will mention about this one. That means this table has a, let's look at, has a here, has a 1. This is for the border. Okay, for this one, the head has a border, and then it's 1 pixel. It's solid border, and then the color of the border for the bottom of the head is this color. And then text align for the head, text table head, we use align to the left, so you can find it's aligned to the left. And then color, the front face, the foreground, foreground face, that means the text color is this one, and the font weight is normal, so we don't bold, italic. And then for the TD, that means generally we decide its mean width is 150 pixels, mean height is 200 pixels. Okay, the minimum, at least each cell must have this number of pixels. So you can find out here is a similar idea. We apply this one to the table that we cut. So now we talk about the box, because this is for example, each cell we first draw a box, and then in the box we show image or show a paragraph. So you can make it smaller, a little bit smaller than the box, surrounding box, or you can just make them the same size. So it's up to you. So you can allow some border, okay, or not. And then vertical line is using top for each one. We align to the top. Okay, that means the text and the images. If we show both in one cell, we align to the bottom, to the top. Okay, the top of the text means the ascender, align to the top of the image. If you show these two things in line, inline elements in one cell. And then line height is this one. Line height we mentioned before. That's the like spacing between lines. So the bottom and the bottom of this line and the top of this line, in between we have a gap. This gap is 1.4. Okay, that's the spacing in between. So you can find we have some gap. In these two lines, we didn't touch each other, so easy to read. So that's the line height. And then TD description we mentioned. So this is the main thing we want to talk about. For this one, we must make it to, at a minimum, it's 450. This is for width. So let's try. Minimum width is 450. That means you cannot reduce the width less than this one. You also cannot increase the width bigger or larger. Make it bigger or wider than this one. Okay, let's try. Width. So we need to drag from left to right. So For example, if the window is very big, and then we drag, you can find it here. After we drag, it doesn't extend. That's the bound. That's the bound. So that's the bound for 650 pixels. So that means at most we'll show these descriptions in these sites. So we don't expand anymore for this description. Because if you can think if we can drag and then this one show very wide, and then if there's not many words in this one, you will find the words are spaced very sparsely, right? Sparsely positioned along the line. So that's not good. So we want to fix, because it's already legible. You can already recognize the text very easily. So there's no need to further expand the width of this one. Okay, this is one. That means if this is for wider screen. But if the screen is small, we also want to try to avoid the text cannot be legible by squeezing. You can find now we cannot squeeze, right? Because this has a min width style. You can find it here. So we still can squeeze till here. There's no change. So this is the 450, right? 450 pixels. So you must show a line with this number for pixels. Okay, at least 450 pixels for one line. Okay, this is the meaning, right? This is the meaning for this one. So that means make the readable or eligible, improve the readability. Okay, so do not think okay, web programming is simple. Yeah, simple for starting, but if you want to develop a good website, it's still time consuming. You need to consider a lot of scenarios. Okay, especially like now we use more wireless cell phones, right? So wireless applications are more than just desktop or PC based programs. So we need to consider them, the variety in the screens, in the power, and in the computational capabilities, and so on. So this one. Okay, sometimes we may also consider different types of users, right? Blind people, or have hearing impairment issues. So like these things. Okay. Okay, this is for this one. So you can just, if you have understand this one, if we change this one to min height, max height, then you know how to drag, right? Now I drag to the y, to the width, just make it wider. If min height, max height, then I need to drag vertically, right? Okay, that will be the next two slides contents. We'll continue. So first finish this one. So let's continue. For example, we just finished the min width and the min height, max height. Similarly, we can assign the min height and the max height property values. So for here, you can find here we define the paragraph has a max height for this one. Okay, others we can just look at them in the code. Anyway, it's clearer. Okay, let's look at. This is the result. Why it looks like this, and then we'll consider. So for example, if the text is too much, cannot fit into the box, what will happen? What will be happened? Okay, what will happen next? So let's look at the code. So you can find this is the min height, max height, and then we have content here first. We have three heading, two headings first. So each one is a brand, and then we have a paragraph to show this brand. Okay, that's very concise and consistent, just like one brand after followed by one description. Okay, heading P, heading to P, heading to P. Okay, let's look at its style definition. So the body in default with a rear, and the color for the foreground we use this color. This is 111, so it's gray color. And then H2P for both. So heading and paragraph, we define its width is 400 pixels. Okay, 400 pixels. So that means we put a box to this to hold the heading to and hold the paragraph. So the box width is 400 pixels. Okay, and then font size is 90%. So that means in default it's 16, and then you do the 14, 19, and then you do the rounding. What will be the next? Should be around 14. Cut. The size is 14 pixels. And then non-height, that means the spacing in between for the text and for the headings for both is 1.2 equal to the size of M. And then H2 color, so the heading has a different color, is this color. Okay, and the heading also has a bottom border, cut the border bottom. So that means the bottom part of the border is 1 pixels, just like a draw underline. Okay, under the heading 2, and it's a solid border. So the color of the border line is this one, this color. Okay, same cut. And then this is the main thing we want to learn. Cut. So mean height is 10 pixels. So that means at least you need to show it in 10 pixels. Otherwise, we cannot see it. At most, we can only just allow 30 pixels to show this. Okay, this is the idea. That means the width we define here, but the height we define here. That means we only allow 30 pixels. Only allow 30 pixels at the maximum. 30 pixels for the height. So that means the height of the box for either H2 or paragraph is a little bit small, right? Is a little short, so the narrow. So if the box is a little bit shorter, so we need to think about if the paragraph, so heading unit there's no problem. Heading unit the text is not that much. You can fit into 30 pixels. Maybe it's already 2 or 3 lines. Okay? But for paragraph, if like this one, I think even here we already show them in 3 paragraphs. That means it cannot fit into the box. We may only be able to show only a partial of it. For example, 2 lines at most, maybe even less than 2 lines. It depends, because you also have the width limitation. Width is 400 pixels, so it's fixed. You will fixed the width to be 400 pixels. Doesn't depending on the screen window. For example, the browser, you change the browser window to smaller or short or bigger. So you fix the width. So that means that's the reason you can see the result is like the previous one I showed. Okay, this is the analysis at least. And then we also need to consider, for example, this one we have heading, we also have paragraph. So this one is under this one. So what happened, for example, if you draw, okay, if you draw a button under the heading, but your window is already very small. So this min height is must make sure the heading at least is 10 pixels. And then the window is already small. Maybe you will draw that bottom border inside of this box, correct? Because currently the window is very small. Let's confirm, correct? Let's confirm. So here I also want to show two browsers running result. So let's first try the Google Chrome. So this is running result. Yeah, it's exactly this one. This is the also I didn't zoom this browsers, so it's Control 0. You got it 100% cut. So like this. So you can find the first one there's no issue, and then but others you have issued. You can find it here. You cut. So why we have this one? You can find out cut the paragraph will continue. Cut will continue. Haven't finished. But you will start a new paragraph over there. Okay, over there. So this is the problem. Okay, that means you only allow the the height. Okay, the max height is 30 pixels. So this is 30 pixels. And then next one show okay, we show the heading 2 here. And then but the text of the window will continue till here. Can you find out here, okay? By brands, okay. So it's till here, okay. So that means we continue music and Duro, okay. This here, okay. Duro. It was originally popular in 60s surf and the song. Okay, if you zoom in, maybe it's easy to see. So that's the reason, right? It's overlapped. Okay, it's overlapped. So this is that's why we need to think about it. That means if you don't create a wide height tall enough or wider enough box for some input, so some text, some cell, maybe we have an overlapping issue. Right? This is the thing we want to learn. And each time we will draw an underline. Anyway, draw a line under the head and the head. They will show them in that positions because you already arranged the boxes like that. So you first draw a box. So it's heading 2. Okay, draw a heading 2 box. The height is 30 mask height. Okay, is 30 pixels, and the width is also fixed. So this is the reason. So let's look at, for example, we set a mask height, min height. Let's look at the min height. You can find it here. At least you need to allow 10 pixels to show that one. So they will not. Okay, we use Control 0. They will not further squeezed. Further squeezed. You can find it here. So then you can just only see partially, but they will not scale down to smaller size, to smaller font, because we already defined its min height. Okay, min height for this one. Okay, and similarly, if you drag down, it also will not continue because you defined the max height 30 pixels, so it's already there. It's 30 pixels. Okay? So this 30 pixels. This also shows 30 pixels. So they don't change. Okay, this is this running result. We want to compare it with the because I don't know because this is messy. We don't see clearly. So I tried Firefox as well to see what's the content. You can find here it seems better. Okay, show the result it seems better, clearer than the Google Chrome. Okay, so let's further confirm the contents. You can find here the first box, right? Okay, finished here. So the brands, cat alternative brands, and then we have the next box, the fender. So that's here, the fender here, right? So seems this one is still legible. We still can recognize, but the Google Chrome seems didn't does not handle this case very well. Okay. Okay, let's try some other browsers to see. So this is the mean height. For example, if we use IE, okay, yeah, seems also good, kind of. And Edge, same, because they both belong to Microsoft. I think they are similar. I think Edge just borrowed the main part of IE and then do some changes. Okay, this is for this example. So for the target for here, the main thing we want to learn is that we can decide the mean and the maximum for the height and the width. The reason is that we want to improve readability. We want to improve this one. And then next one, we need to consider, for example, this one is not good. Even the window is very short. You keep showing the result, so there's overlapping. So rather than showing like that way, can we just, for example, add a scroll button menu, right? And then there you can add that scroll bar, and then you can scroll down for the first box and here as well, right? So that will be the topic for the next one slide. Is called overflow. Okay, we'll continue for the overflow. If the text is more than the allocated space, what's your handling mechanisms? So you need to define whether you will show partially, do not continue, or you will show a scroll bar. Right? Okay. Okay, let's continue with the overflow property. Okay, for this one, we mentioned that if the box is not big enough, it's less than the required space to show the text completely. So we have two methods to show the rest. The first one is that we don't care. Okay, we hidden. So we only show that part. Okay. The second one is that you are nice, okay? You want to have people to read the next. So scroll down, and then add a scroll bar. Okay, that's the idea. Let's use the example. Okay, this is the showing result. Don't care. Show partially. Add a scroll bar, and then see the. So we have two headings and underline. That means the bottom part of the table, and then we have two paragraphs. Okay, let's look at the code. So you can find here just reduced. Prefer we have 3 paragraphs. Okay, so here we need 2, and then other things are similar. Okay, like this body and H2. Okay, body, let's go over it quickly. Body, so this one, font size, non-height width. The width is fixed to 200. Okay, this is 200. And the heading color, and add a button to the bottom to the cell. So heading 2. Okay, So that means each time we show a header, we draw a line under it. Okay, this color. And then we have paragraph. General definition is the min height and the max height we already decided. So that means we only allow that much. Okay, if you can, it is all for this 85 pixels. So you know maybe each we show the pixel you can find. So this one maybe in default we use some type of context. For example, depending on the browser, with 12 or 16 or anything. Okay? So this only shows several lines. If more than that one, and also you know we add some margin between. Okay? We don't show one line after the other, so we have line spacing. So that's a line height. So you cannot show many lines kind of in the paragraph window. Okay, so this is a problem. And then we need to handle the problem. So we provide these two. The first one is that we have the class tag, class one element. We handle this type of element using hidden. Don't show the rest. Don't continue to show the rest contents. And handle the class 2 elements, we want to add a scroll bar. Okay, this is the code, and then let's run it like this way. So the first one didn't show it completely, right? And it's so just till here, right? Only shows 3 lines. Okay, here is 3 lines, only show here. That depends on, for example, because if I, for example, this is okay, 0, okay. This is this one. If I drag, okay, still cannot see. So they only show because this decide that the window for this paragraph, the maximum height already fixed to 85, and then at least it's 30, right? 30. Okay, so that means if cannot show one line, then just didn't show. Okay, and then for the scroll for this one, we add a scroll bar so you can allow users to scroll down to read the rest content. This is better cut. Of course, we need to use this one because, for example, if you are developing a web apps for just for example cell phone cut handset, and then for the screen is some screen is very small, some screen is big. Okay, so we want to show the contents completely. So you need to add this flexibility. If you cannot fit in the screen, so you allow the scroll bar. Okay, allow the scroll bar because this is a very important. Because people want to zoom in, zoom out, and scroll down or open multiple windows. Even the screen is not so big. Okay, this is just HCI issues, human computer interaction. Just make it easy to use and consider all the scenarios when you design your program. Okay. Okay, now we already finished the box size, box size issues. For example, we can decide its width, height. We mentioned the width, height, and then maximum and minimum width, and maximum and minimum height. Even handle if the allocated size is not big, not big enough, we can show the overflow contents. So this is this is first topic. Okay, we finished first topic now. Okay. So now let's look at the second topic of this chapter about the borders. Okay, the box model for borders, margin, and padding. That means how to understand the box related to border, margin, and padding. So first one is that we need to understand what is the border, margin, and the padding. Okay, for example, here we have a text window. We show this one in this word in a text in a box. Okay, so we want to add a border to it. For example, this border, even you didn't add it explicitly, that means even the border, the pixel wise is 0, but the border still exists. Okay, still exists, but it's just not visible. Okay, this is in fact we use the border to define boxes. So that means, for example, the black one. Okay, the black itself is the is the is the box. Of course, this one is still larger than the box. The box is just surrounding the content here. So that's exactly from here to here. Okay, so this is the border. Okay, this is the border. This is the box. Okay, the box is here. So next one is that we draw a border to here. Okay, and after that, so this one will separate from other box, okay, other boxes. So that means we use the border to define boxes. Of course, you can choose how many pixels you want to define for the border. You may want to have a thin or thick border. Okay, and also the border has its names. Border has their name, have their colors. So that means you can just assign different color for the border to differentiate to make it beautiful. Okay, next one we want to talk about is margin. So the margin is beyond the border. So margin is just separate boxes. Okay, so that means between adjacent boxes we add a margin. We don't want to put two boxes too close to each other. Then it's, you don't know, maybe, okay, things like the borders they touch to each other. Then it's like you have a double edge, okay, double border. So not good. Just add a margin in between. Okay, margin is the space between boxes. Okay, in fact, when we talk about, for example, for designers, usually they refer to the space between items, means the margin, or just some elements, for example, the border and the text, the content inside. So we set this thing called white space, because that's the white space. We didn't add something in between. Especially like the margin, we just look at it as white space, because we just don't need to assign color to it. Want to leave this white space in between. Okay, and then next one is about the, for example, you can find here how big you want to have, okay, how wide you want to have. This is that means we need to have the padding. Okay, this is the meaning for padding. So padding means for example, you have a box defined like this way, but you don't want to start from the box border to start the text. So you add paddings. Padding will define, okay, you just like you insert something in between, and then to differentiate the border and the content. So padding just want to use to define, to separate border and its content. So it's like you have border first, and then you have padding, and then you have your content. Okay, in short, it's BPC, right? Border, padding, content. Okay, and then margin, another border, right? And then another padding, another. So this is just like the framework or the model, right? BPC define a unit, and then BPC define another unit, and then we add a margin in between. So border will separate different units, different items, and then P is separate the border and its contents. The item's contents, the item's border. So now it's very clear. Okay, now you understand. So when you define a box, for example, you define the box width and height. You also define its margin and the padding. So all of these margins and the paddings will be added to the size of the box, to the width and height. So that means if the box is only here, right? And then you add the paddings, and then you add the borders, and then you add the margins. So the box itself is only the innermost, and then after that you add the paddings to separate from the border of the box. So the border is here, and then you add the paddings inside, so the border will be moved towards the outside. And after that you still want to separate this box from other boxes. You add a margin in between. Okay, this is the definition for these three things. Hope you can understand and also later do not confused. Okay, so but if you remember BPC, and the BPC in between the M should be easy for you to to deduce what is what and how to set each of them, or how to draw the layout. Okay, how to design the layout as well. Let's continue to see one example. So for here we show with space and with the margin and the padding means the space. Okay, or without. So it's space and the vertical margin. This is vertical margin with them, with the space and the vertical margin. This is without vertical space, white space and vertical margin. So here we put I wrote something here. So this is the margin, vertical margin. This is the I said it's I think it's right or wrong. This is the should be padding. Okay, not a B. Okay, so the padding between the border and the text cut, that's the padding. And because you also may add a border, at the border, these yellow ones are borders, so the border will also add a space. So we set all of these things. Just the white space just will be defined the space between items on a page. So designer will define this way. So that means some gap between the items. So this gap we set is white space. Okay, items can be anything, can be box, can be contents, or can be elements, kind of like this one. This is the gap. This is white space. Okay, and then in between boxes we also have white space. So margin is also white space, and padding is white space. Okay, we just consider this one white space. It's really white. And then if without padding, without white space and the vertical margin, you can find here. It's not easy to read because there's no padding. So the paragraph, the contents in the box, the content of the box is starting from the border, so they almost overlapped, okay? So it's not easy to differentiate, or not easy for reading. And also you put boxes touch each other, make them touch each other, so you don't easy to separate them, not easy for us to read as well, not good, okay? So this is to show the importance of white space. We need to have content there, but we also need to add a white space to organize the contents. So that's important in a good way, in a beautiful way. Okay. So that's the important thing here. So another thing we want to mention is that so for example, you have a button, okay? You have a button and the top for a margin, like this way. Here we have, for example, from here to here, I define the margin for this one. Okay, if we draw bigger, okay? So that's for this one, the margin, the top, and the bottom. So we say the margin 1 top, margin 1 top, margin 1 bottom. If there's another, this is for this one. Okay, for this one, it also have a top and a bottom. This is for margin 2, cut margin 2. So margin 2 bottom, margin 2 top. If this 2, that means the M1 bottom and the M2 top, they are touching each other. Then in fact we will not show two margins together. We only show the largest one, the larger one. So either one, because they will consider this one, you want to show one because they are coincide each other. So the bottom of the first margin touch the top of the second margin, they will show the larger one. This one is larger, or this one is larger. The taller one, the larger one, cut. And if they are the same size, we only show one margin. Okay, so just make sure do not touch each other, cut. Just when we design the margins, this is also important because it's not like what you expect. They will show in different way. Okay, this is for the border margin and the paddings definitions and examples, and then later we'll learn the properties and the values to set all of them. Okay.